You filled up your car this week, right? Did you notice something? That number on the pump, it hurt a little more than usual, maybe a lot more. And maybe you went to the grocery store after that, picked up eggs, bread, some chicken, the basics, and you looked at your receipt and thought, wait, this much for this little? You're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. Everything is more expensive right now, this week, compared to last month. And here's what most people don't realize. The reason isn't some complicated economic theory. It's not the Fed. It's not corporate greed. Well, not entirely corporate greed. The single biggest reason your life just got more expensive has a very specific cause: war. Specifically, the United States military conflict with Iran. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how this conflict is reaching into your wallet, whether you live in New York, London, Toronto, or Sydney, and pulling money out. We're going to talk about gas prices, grocery bills, airline tickets, your investments, your job security, all of it. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you what you can actually do about it. Real practical steps, not fear-mongering, not panic, just facts and action. Stay with me for the next 30 minutes. This might be the most important video you watch this year. Let's get into it. Context: what happened with Iran? Okay, before we talk about your wallet, let's make sure everyone is on the same page about what actually happened. Because if you've only been catching headlines between TikToks, you might be missing the full picture. The United States launched military strikes against Iran. Now, tensions between the US and Iran have been building for years, decades really. But this escalation is different. This isn't sanctions. This isn't tough talk at the UN. This is bombs, missiles, military engagement. And Iran didn't just sit there and take it. They responded. And one of the most significant things they did, or threatened to do, was choke off the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you don't know what the Strait of Hormuz is, don't worry, we're going to do a deep dive on that in a minute. But just know this for now. It's basically the bottleneck through which a massive percentage of the world's oil flows. And when that bottleneck gets threatened, everything changes. We're talking about 20% of the world's oil supply suddenly being at risk. Commercial traffic through the strait has reportedly ground to a complete standstill. Let me say that again, complete standstill. The International Energy Authority, the IEA, called this, and I'm quoting directly here, the greatest global energy security challenge in history. Not a challenge, not a significant challenge, the greatest in history. That's not me being dramatic. That's the world's top energy authority using those words. Now, why should you care if you're sitting in Ohio or Manchester or Melbourne? Because oil isn't just what goes in your car. Oil is everything. It's the basis of modern civilization. It moves your food from the farm to your plate. It heats homes. It makes the plastic in your phone case. It powers the trucks, the ships, the planes that keep the entire global economy running. When oil gets disrupted, everything gets disrupted. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Gas prices, the first hit. Let's start with the most obvious one, the one you feel every single time you drive past a gas station: gas prices. In just the first week after the strikes on Iran, the average U.S. gasoline price jumped 48 cents per gallon. 48 cents in 7 days. Now, let me put that in perspective for you. The average American drives about 13,500 miles per year. The average car gets about 25 miles per gallon. That means the average American buys about 540 gallons of gas per year. A 48-cent increase, if it stays at this level, that's an extra $259 per year, per car, per household. 540 gallons times $0.48 equals $259.20 per per year. Two-car household equals $518.40 per year. If you're a two-car household, and most American families are, that's over $500 a year gone. Just like that. And that's if prices stay where they are. Most analysts think they're going higher. And here's the thing that really gets me. This hits lower income families the hardest. If you're making $40,000 a year, that extra $500 is your grocery budget for a month. That's not nothing. That's real money. For our viewers in the UK, you're seeing it too. Petrol prices have spiked. Diesel is up. And because the UK imports a significant portion of its energy, you're directly exposed to these global oil shocks. Canada and Australia, same story. Global oil market, global impact. But gas is just the beginning, because here's what most people don't think about. When gas gets more expensive, everything that uses gas to operate also gets more expensive. And that brings us to the next domino. Flights and travel, the second hit. Raise your hand if you have a trip planned this year. A vacation, a wedding, a business trip. Maybe you are going to visit family overseas. I have bad news. Jet fuel prices have doubled since the conflict began, and airlines, they don't just eat that cost, they pass it on to you. Some airline ticket prices have nearly tripled. Let that sink in. That $400 round trip to see your parents for the holidays, it might be $1,000 now, or $1,200. That trip to Europe you were planning, the one you've been saving for, add another $1,000, maybe $2,000. And it's not just the ticket price. Hotels rely on energy. Rental car companies are passing on fuel costs. Tourist destinations are seeing price increases across the board. The entire travel industry is being repriced in real time. And here's what's really concerning. Even if the conflict ends tomorrow, fuel prices don't come down tomorrow. There's a lag. Airlines have fuel hedging contracts. They've already baked higher costs into their pricing models. Those elevated prices could stick around for months after the conflict ends. So if you're thinking, I'll just wait it out, you might be waiting longer than you think. But okay, maybe you're thinking, I don't travel that much. I can cut back on driving. This doesn't really affect me. Fair enough. But you eat, right? Food prices, the third hit. This is the one that affects literally every single person watching this video. Food. And this is where most people don't connect the dots. They see gas prices going up and they think, okay, it costs more to drive. But they don't realize that the cost of growing, processing, transporting, and storing food is deeply tied to fossil fuel prices. Here's the number that blew my mind when I researched this. Fossil fuels account for 40 to 50% of the total cost of growing crops. 40 to 50%. Think about what goes into farming. Tractors run on diesel. Fertilizers are made from natural gas. Pesticides are petroleum-based. Irrigation systems run on electricity, often generated by natural gas or oil. Then the food gets harvested and loaded onto trucks, diesel trucks, that drive it to processing plants. Those plants use massive amounts of energy. Then it gets loaded onto more trucks and driven to distribution centers. Then more trucks to your grocery store. Every single step of that chain runs on fossil fuels. So when oil doubles, food prices don't double overnight, but they creep up, week by week, item by item. And before you know it, your grocery bill is 20, 30, 40% higher, and you're standing in the checkout line thinking, how did this happen? And I want to be really clear about something. This doesn't hit everyone equally. If you're making $200,000 a year, your grocery bill going up $150 a month is annoying. It's not great, but you'll be fine.
If you're making $35,000 a year, if you're a single parent, if you're on a fixed income, if you're retired, that extra $150 is the difference between making rent and not making rent. Food inflation is a regressive tax. It hits the people who can least afford it the hardest. And it's not just in America. Global food supply chains are interconnected. Wheat, corn, soybeans, these are globally traded commodities. When energy costs spike, food costs spike everywhere. The UK imports roughly 40% of its food. Canada and Australia are major agricultural producers, but still depend on global energy prices for farming costs. Nobody is immune. Okay, so gas is up, flights are up, food is up. But here's where things get really serious, because we haven't talked about the big picture yet. The economy. Stagflation risk. There's a word that economists have been whispering for months, and now, because of this conflict, they're starting to say it out loud. Stagflation. Stagflation is the nightmare scenario for any economy. It's when you get the worst of both worlds. Prices are going up, and the economy is slowing down, and unemployment is rising, all at the same time. Normally, when the economy slows down, prices come down too. That's basic supply and demand. But in stagflation, prices keep rising even as people lose their jobs. Because the price increases aren't coming from demand, they're coming from supply shocks. Like, say, a war disrupting global oil supply. Sound familiar? Analysts are comparing this directly to the 1970s energy crisis, and that comparison should make you pay attention, because the 1970s energy crisis was one of the most painful economic periods in modern American history. The parallels are striking: acute supply shortages, currency volatility, inflation, and heightened risks of stagflation and recession. And here's where the really tricky part is. The Federal Reserve, the people who control interest rates in the US, they're stuck. Normally, if inflation is high, the Fed raises interest rates to cool things down. And if the economy is weakening, they cut rates to stimulate growth. But what do you do when both are happening? When inflation is rising and the economy is weakening? You can't raise rates. That would crush an already struggling economy and potentially trigger a deep recession. You can't cut rates. That would pour gasoline on the inflation fire. You're stuck. And the Fed knows it. Reports indicate that the conflict is increasing odds of a pause in rate cuts as officials weigh inflation against growth concerns. Translation: help is not coming from monetary policy, at least not anytime soon. So what does this mean for you personally? It means your job might be less secure. It means your mortgage rate isn't coming down. It means your credit card interest rate stays high. It means the cost of borrowing for a car, a home, a business, it all stays elevated. And it means the prices you're paying at the pump and the grocery store, they might be the new normal, at least for a while. Okay, I know that's heavy. I know that's a lot of doom and gloom. But I promised you something at the beginning of this video. I promised you practical steps, things you can actually do. And I'm a person of my word.
So, let's get into it. What you can do. Practical steps. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can single-handedly solve a geopolitical crisis. You can't control what happens in the Strait of Hormuz, but you can control how you respond. You can make smart decisions right now that protect you and your family from the worst of what's coming. And that's what this section is about. Step 1. Audit your fuel spending. This sounds basic, but most people have no idea how much they actually spend on gas each month. Pull up your bank statement right now. Seriously, pause this video if you have to. Add up every gas station charge from the last 30 days. Then compare it to 90 days ago. I guarantee the number will shock you. Once you know that number, you can start making informed decisions. Can you carpool? Can you work from home an extra day per week? Can you combine errands into one trip instead of 3? If your employer offers remote work, even partial remote work, now is the time to have that conversation. Frame it as productivity. Frame it as whatever you need to. But every day you don't commute is $10, $15, $20 back in your pocket.
For our UK viewers, public transit might actually be cheaper right now than driving, even with train prices being what they are. Do the math. Step 2, get strategic about food. Food prices are going up. That's not speculation, that's supply chain math. So what can you do? First, buy in bulk now. Non-perishables, rice, beans, pasta, canned goods, frozen vegetables. If you have the storage space, stock up. Every bag of rice you buy today at today's price is a bag you don't buy next month at next month's higher price. Second, consider a wholesale membership if you don't have one. Costco, Sam's Club, whatever the equivalent is in your country. Buying in bulk at wholesale prices can save 20 to 30% compared to regular grocery stores. Third, meal planning. I know it sounds trivial, but Americans waste about 30 to 40% of the food they buy. In a rising price environment, waste is expensive. Plan your meals. Use what you buy. Eat leftovers. It adds up. Fourth, grow something, even if it's herbs on a windowsill. Every tomato you grow is a tomato you don't buy. And if this conflict drags on for months, a small garden could save you hundreds. Step 3, be smart about travel. If you have trips planned in the next 6 months, do a cost-benefit analysis right now. Can you fly from a different airport? Sometimes driving 2 hours to a different departure city saves hundreds. Can you shift your dates? Midweek flights are almost always cheaper. Is this trip essential or can it wait? I'm not saying cancel everything, but if you were planning a casual just because vacation, maybe convert it to a road trip somewhere closer, or postpone until prices normalize. And if you have to fly, book now, not later. Prices are likely going up, not down, in the short term. Step 4, fortify your emergency fund. I know, build an emergency fund is the most cliché personal finance advice on the planet, but clichés exist for a reason. If stagflation hits, if the economy weakens and prices stay high, you want a cushion, even a small one. If you have nothing saved, start with $500, then $1,000, then build toward 1 month of expenses, then 3 months. Cut subscriptions you don't use, sell stuff you don't need, pick up a side gig for a few months. Every dollar you put into savings right now is a dollar of security. Step 5, diversify your income. This is the big one.
In uncertain economic times, relying on a single source of income is risky. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm saying think about what else you could do. Freelancing, consulting, online selling, content creation, tutoring. Whatever skills you have, there's probably a way to monetize them on the side. And if you're in an industry that's vulnerable to an economic downturn, retail, hospitality, real estate, start thinking now about how to position yourself. Update your resume, build your network. Don't wait until the layoffs start job searching. Look, I'm not trying to scare you. I genuinely believe that informed people make better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes. The people who got through the 2008 financial crisis the best weren't the ones who panicked, and they weren't the ones who ignored it either. They were the ones who saw what was coming, accepted reality, and took practical steps to protect themselves. That's what I want for you. Step 6. Stay informed, not panicked. One more thing, and this is important. There's a difference between being informed and being anxious. Being informed means understanding the situation, knowing how it affects you, and taking calm, rational steps. Being anxious means doom-scrolling Twitter at 2 a.m., panic buying everything at Costco, and making impulsive financial decisions based on fear. Don't do that. Check reliable sources once or twice a day. Make your plan, execute your plan, and then go live your life. The world has been through worse than this and come out the other side. We'll get through this too, but we'll get through it better if we're prepared. Investment note.
Now, a lot of you are going to ask about investments, and I want to address that briefly, but I want to be really clear that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making investment decisions. That said, here's what the professionals are saying publicly. Morgan Stanley has noted that defense, security, aerospace, and industrial resilience are key sectors to watch, as government spending in these areas could drive multi-year demand. Some oil company stocks have actually risen during this period. That makes sense. When oil prices spike, companies that sell oil tend to do well. Oxford Economics has suggested that oil, gas, gold, and aerospace and defense assets could see significant price increases. But they've also cautioned that extreme moves should be viewed skeptically, as many analysts believe the conflict may not extend beyond 2 months. If you have investments, a 401k, an ISA, a pension, the general advice in times of uncertainty is don't panic sell. Historically, panic selling during crises locks in losses. Markets tend to recover. Time in the market beats timing the market. But again, talk to your financial advisor about your situation. The Iran conflict is not just a headline. It's not just something happening over there. It is actively, measurably making your life more expensive right now. Gas, food, travel, and potentially your job security and your financial future. But you're not powerless. You watched this video, you're informed, and now you can take action. Audit your spending, stock up strategically, rethink your travel, build your cushion, diversify your income. Stay informed, not panicked. I'm going to be making more videos about this. I want to go deep on the Strait of Hormuz, how this tiny waterway controls the entire global economy. I want to talk about where smart investors are actually putting their money. And I've got a wild story about a potential insider trading scandal connected to this conflict that you are not going to believe. So if you found this valuable, and if you made it this far, I think you did, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because the next few months are going to be critical, and I want to make sure you have the information you need. Drop a comment below. Tell me, have you noticed prices going up where you live? What's gotten more expensive? I read every comment, and I want to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you in the next one.